Good evening. Thanks for coming out on this rainy evening. I thought that it would be useful just to give you a little overview of what's going to take place tonight. We'll start out with what we call a preamble. And for those of you that have been here before, it's getting shorter each week because we want to capture the highlights of the framing of impeachment as it was framed by the framers of the Constitution. So this is a little bit of a crash course in the way impeachment has been seen through the ages and framed through the ages. And then we'll have three witnesses interrogated by Michael Ratner. And Michael will do his best to provide us with the tools to understand the consequences of torture to our country, to our standing in the world, and to our moral leverage, both now and in the future. Then we'll take a short break and we'll reconvene for an in-depth panel discussion that will include questions from the audience. And there's a very short reading before the panel discussion from someone that was actually in Abu Ghraib. Now, I'd like to ask that we all listen quite carefully for just one moment. The sound that we've just heard is, in effect, what self-censorship sounds like. Self and group censorship is the order of the day in Washington now, and we, in partnership with our elected representatives, are the stewards of our Constitution. So perhaps we could ask ourselves, if we don't want to confront this directly, why is my America great? And with that question, I would ask, is that going to be a question that will become increasingly difficult for our children to answer? Almost through. I just wanted to read something here from Chalmers Johnson. The interesting issue is not the damage done by Bush, Cheney, and their followers, but how they were able to get away with it, given the barriers that exist in the Constitution to prevent just the sorts of misuses of power for which they have become notorious. Now, I'd like to close by reading a poem from someone who started speaking out decades ago and continues to speak out, Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And it's entitled Pity the Nation, after Khalil Gibran. Pity the nation whose people are sheep and whose shepherds mislead them. Pity the nation whose leaders are liars, whose sages are silenced, and whose bigots haunt the airwaves. Pity the nation that raises not its voice, except to praise conquerors and acclaim the bully as hero, and aims to rule the world by force and by torture. Pity the nation that knows no other language but its own, and no other culture but its own. Pity the nation whose breath is money, and sleeps the sleep of the too well-fed. Pity the nation, oh, pity the people who allow their rights to erode and their freedoms to be washed away. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Welcome to A Question of Impeachment.